Thursday Night Football had the injury that we all didn't want to happen. Tua Tagovailoa had his 4th concussion in recent times. People were saying that it was 3, but he had 3 in that 2022 season. Didn't have any in the 2023 season. And in this game, when the game seemed almost lost, he went into a collision with Damar Hamlin and came out worse. Now, we're not going to speculate as to whether he's going to retire or not, but in terms of the importance for this team, the importance for him himself, first of all, the most important thing is whether he is able to continue, correct?
Yep.
And it seems like that the number of concussions that he's had is tricky, because when you have them over and over again, Will,
yep,
they get progressively worse.
Yeah, this seems to be the story of Tua's career so far, and just when you think it's like past him, it's in the past, it rears its ugly head, and he's going to go through concussion protocol at some point this season. He will be cleared to play.
You'd think, but the thing is whether.
But there are like a lot of questions being asked. Like the NFL stands for not for long. Let's say you're an average player. You're probably only going to play 5-6 years. You go into the league at 19 to 20. Your career, as far as professional football at the highest level, is over at the age of 25. You've basically
he's 26. He is 26 years old, which is the ugly fact rearing its head.
He is no longer a young adult. He's just an adult now. So it's basically a case of there's so much more after football. Even if you're an all-time player, you're retiring at 32, and even then, you're nowhere near middle-aged at that point. So there's a lot that happens after football, and I honestly think ultimately it's got to come down to him. I think money is an issue here because he has just received that huge contract. That being said,
but the thing is, there are injury guarantees. So if we look from a monetary perspective, obviously we're not going to say whether Tua should go either way, right?
Yeah.
But from a monetary perspective, if he's cleared to play and he retires, he forgoes a lot of money. If he is no longer, if the medical advice is because due to the number of concussions he's had in his career to date, that it is advised that he is to step away from the game, then his money is guaranteed. The money is there's an injury guaranteed portion of that money. Yeah. But that's the cold way of looking at it. Whether or not, like, if you look at the Indianapolis Colts, when obviously not a concussion-based thing, but when Andrew Luck retired, we still paid the money as the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, and this actually sort of brings that back. I think Andrew had a long, hard think. Obviously, it was a different situation with him constantly having to work through rehab. It affected his quality of life. Things did hurt. His body was in pain. Football takes so much, and they're always viewed as gladiators. And for Tua, I think every time he runs the ball, defenders, fans alike are just saying, like, you could see Damar Hamlin
slide. He didn't lay a hit.
Really go for a hit. He basically just absorbed the blow, because most defenders are like, look, I can take you out, Tua. I really can. Please just go down. I don't want to have to make a tackle here. And that wasn't a hard impact, but it was enough.
It was enough to cause because effectively he was dropping the shoulder, but he wasn't dropping the shoulder, he was dropping his own head.
Yeah.
Now, obviously in the NFL, when you're dropping the shoulder in the NFL, you do tend to drop. The head kind of does come into it because obviously you're wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other contact sport that we know of in rugby, when you are dropping the shoulder, you're able to put your head to the side because obviously it's a much smaller apparatus. You don't have this thing around your head. But with regards to obviously we know he should have slid, but if we look at the impact that him being out currently for the Miami Dolphins is massive, because if you look at the numbers for Tyreek, for Waddle, with Tua and without Tua, it's chalk and cheese.
Different team. Yeah, I mean the
Yeah.
offense changes. They did acquire Skylar.
Well, they're looking at, so from my understanding, they are looking to acquire a veteran quarterback of some sort, because Skylar is not going to do it for them.
He's not going to do it, but he's going to have to try and hold the team. They're going to have to change up the offense somehow. Whether they're obviously going to lean on the run, but I don't think A-Chain is that kind of back. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but I don't think he's almost like a 30 carries, 25 carries a game kind of
what
guy.
it is with that team at the moment, you look at it, it's all speed, right?
Yeah.
A-Chan's speed, Mostert is speed, Jeff Wilson's got some speed, and that's just the running back room, right?
Speed,
And then you got Tyreek, Waddle, who are speed.
Speedsters, yeah.
And
who's that tight end? Johnny Smith.
Yeah, Johnny Smith. Yeah, he had some catches last night, but even if we look at the game itself, obviously Josh Allen against Miami, it's almost a non-contest. But the thing is, Josh Allen didn't even have to do much in this game, because it was mainly James Cook. James Cook had his a massive breakout game, 2 touchdowns rushing and a touchdown receiving. And it was a peculiar one, because I think during the third quarter there was already 41 points scored, between all the teams, and then nothing happened. As soon as the injury happened, the game just kind of meandered to its end.
It's sort of I think for the players in particular, like, it's deflating
from both sides, because I don't know if you've heard what Josh Allen basically said after the game. It was, they're competitors, but because he's got to know Tua as a person, and he's as good as a player he is, he's an even better person, and everyone knows that, how everyone holds Tua in high regard within the league. So that's what they're thinking. His well-being is more important than anything else, and it kind of seemed to just... Everyone wanted that game to be over as quickly as possible. And we saw with the moment that his head coach had with him as he was walking off the field, kind of the kiss on the forehead. And it was more of... It shows that his head coach cares for him as a player and as a person, and players are going to play for him because they know that he cares. Whereas some coaches have not going to name names or anything like that, but in the past, some coaches have seemed a little cold under those kind of circumstances.
It's really hard. Like, I've been hearing like a lot of the media sort of discuss this while I was at work today, and it's a really interesting situation, because let's say he does clear concussion protocol, he does return. If you're a defense and you're playing Miami and he gets out of the pocket and starts to run, like, what goes through your head as like a defender? I've seen like a few defenders, former linebackers, say like they're probably going to have to play it differently because they know he's susceptible. And this is definitely.
But the thing is, some just have, when you're going games played at such speed, right? Yeah. It's tricky. You don't want to have doubt in your head, otherwise you don't want to have doubt. Lose.
It can glow. Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of really interesting because the other players do care for him as a player. Like, they care for each other and they understand, look, I could do serious damage to this guy. And like I said, on the actual play, you could tell all of Buffalo's defense were like, please just slide. Like, you're getting the first down. There's no need to take any more. Just go down here. And it's going to be interesting to sort of see what Tua decides to do. Like I said, we're not going to go on to whether or not he wants to retire or not.
No, we're not going to state whether he should go either way. No
matter what happens, though, I think something has to change as far as the type of offense they run. You need to go speak to Tom Brady. Like, I mean, Pete's not here on the show today, daddy duties and whatnot, but you've got to speak to Tom Brady, because that ball was out, two-step read, 3-step.
I think the issue. I think the way that we saw that their offense got completely nullified last night. And that, like when he was on the field, prior to anything happening, he threw 3 picks, and some of those picks were pretty damn awful. One in particular was pretty awful. One seemed like a receiver just stopped on his route, but it seems like Miami has had an issue when they come up against a good team. They've seemed to have been found out so far.
Yeah.
Now, when you take Tua out of that picture, what is their offense going to look like? We don't know.
I mean, we don't know because they're going to have to change. But that being said, I think maybe you try and scheme things out. Like perhaps you say, "Cool, you're going to stay in the pocket," but the mobility is such a big part of his game.
And the
being able,
mobility is such a big part of the way the Dolphins play as well.
yeah. So
in terms of getting people out into space.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, I mean, no matter what happens this season, like I said, I do think we will see him again on the field. But they're definitely going to have to do some soul searching at the end of the year, regardless of the outcome, to sort of see how they go forward as not just as a team, players on that team, but as an organization as well. Because it's not just the players, the organization has to kind of make a decision, and it might. Sometimes you have to save people from themselves. These are competitors. Like football is all he knows. He's been in Elite 11. He went to Alabama. He was a star player in high school. This is it. Like, you know what I mean? This is like his dream, and he's not. No one really wants to give that up, especially when they're there right now. And he's a good quarterback. I mean, there was
No,
like a
but he
huge
gets paid
debate,
what he
is he
gets
worth
paid
the money he
to,
got?
like,
But
yeah,
we all know he's a good QB. Like it's hard
correct.
to find guys like based on what he did last season. He can throw the ball well. And he can win games. So he's a good quarterback, regardless of what anyone says.
It's just whether the risks are going forward are going to be too great for him in terms of long-term health. But we're not going to speculate as to what he should or shouldn't do. It seems like obviously there's going to be a lot of watch this space and see how. But the thing is, people are going to need to be patient on this issue, because don't expect him to have to make a decision on what happens in the next week. It's a thing that's going to take time.
Let things settle. You might need an off season to think it through. Andrew Luck, despite the spontaneous decision, it seemed spontaneous, but no doubt he'd been mulling over it maybe for a year plus.
That had been the case, and I think it's the only thing I will say is it seems a little bit different when it comes to issues of the head as well.
Yeah,
when it's got the whole brain obviously rolling around inside the head, it has a massive impact. But let's just watch this space, and we'll see what decisions and what kind of happens in the next couple of weeks.